All right, we're going to go ahead and convene as soon as the It is November 28th, 2018. It is 6:07, and this is Public Hospital District 4, Cleveland Board of Commissioners meeting, Wednesday, November 28th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Could we stand for the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk do the roll call, please? President Norris? Here. Vice President Herron? She's not here. Secretary Spikers?
Here.
Commissioner Pollard?
Here.
Commissioner Young? Here. Do I hear a motion for approval of the agenda? I make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? We do.
So, just wanted to mention how excited I am for tonight. I think you guys are on the right track. Overlake's a good idea. The Verdant model is just really terrific. And I would encourage all of you on the board to be positive and speak with one voice and to make sure that this goes forward without any hitches. I'd sure hate to see something happen that would make you 50% or 80% effective or the potential rather than 100% for the valve. I also think that this is a time to start thinking about pivoting to include the public, to educate them, to go ahead and sell them on the idea of what you come up with. Dr. Whitcup, a skilled public speaker, charismatic, videotaping comes across very well that way. Really encourage you to be able to go out into the public, both civic organizations and other places, and present what this board comes up with, and to join forces with Overlake in terms of whatever it is that you finally come up with. So, I'll be watching, and so far, so good. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move along. First topic of discussion is compliance update. Steve Daniel, you have the floor.
I want to give you an update on our compliance activity, what's going on. Actually pretty busy. We've got right now 3 audits going. Moss Adams is doing the pre-work for the audit that will be done in 2019 or 2018. They do that because they get very busy first half of the year, so you might as well come in and look at the things that aren't time specific, controls and such at this point in time. We have the state auditor's office in doing an accountability audit. I sent an email to the commissioners on that. When they are finished, mid-December, I would anticipate the report will be in January. It's got to go through a bunch of the higher levels of approval. Probably in January will be the report. And then the Internal Revenue Service is doing an audit of our 2015 refunding LPGO bonds we issued. Purpose of the audit is to verify the tax exempt status for bondholders of those bonds. What that means is that the bondholders do not have to pay taxes on the income from the bonds. we have engaged Foster Pepper for the audit because it's mostly legal work and they're looking at the legality and the documents and how the bonds are structured, not financially, but legally. And So far, Foster Pepper has submitted the initial information to the IRS. Have not heard anything. The state audit, just took you guys this on email, but they, for the first 2 weeks, the auditor did looking at, okay, what accountability areas do they want to identify? What do they want to look at? They're going to look at financial condition, because that was referenced in the last audit. And, they're, talk to them, and you really have improved, but they need to comment on that. We want to look at how we control what are called small and attractive assets. That means like cell phones and other electronic devices, because they mentioned that in their last audit. We want to look at payroll and how that's dispersed and processed, making sure we're complying with overtime laws and such. Look at general expense reimbursements. Do we have the approval processes in place? Look at our charity care policy. We're required to have one to post it. Look at our processes in cash receiving. We get cash in. Cash means cash in checks. What do we do with it? How long do we hold it? Who approves it? Who does the counting? And then the use of district facilities. Do we have the proper controls in place to make sure that people that use the district facilities, the public, do they have insurance, that they're not-for-profit entities and such? One thing about the state audits, we always say, oh, the state audits are in, oh no, but actually the state audit process, I was talking to Kim, is very beneficial to us, because the state auditors go out to all sorts of municipalities, and they look at a whole lot of details, and then come back and say, okay, here's what you're doing in these little areas that you may not have thought of, and here's how you can improve. What will likely come out of the audit are some policies we'll have to revise, tweak, or develop, which it's always good to have another set of eyes look at your control processes. And we're very professional, and we're very open with it. Other compliance activities, we have right now, employees are going through their annual online training. We have the DOH review, which we talked about quite a bit. We have a billing coding review going on. We talked about the 340B pharmacy program. We had a mock audit because that's highly regulated. And so we hired a firm to come in and say, okay, we want to make sure we have the proper controls in place so that when we have a real audit, we will pass. And we actually did extremely well on that. We just got the report back. We had the Rural Health Clinic certification review, and that was a lot of looking at processes, procedures that we had in place, and does that comply with the Rural Health Clinic recommendation or requirements.
When will we know what our rate will be?
We just found out today. It'll be 138.
The low.
Yeah. We made a good shot at it. The Whiffley is still going to try. I don't give him much chance of getting that rate up, but we're going to try. Again, online compliance training, said it twice, that was good. We are in the process of posting our charge master, which is a list of all of our charges online. That is a Medicare requirement. We have to post it by 1/1/2019. We will post the 2018 charge master in December, and then update it with the revised 2019 charge master January 2nd. We have to post it by the 1st. 1st is a holiday. So, we don't want to be out of compliance for a day, so we post the 18 and then replace it with 19. And then the compliance committee is reviewing its charter. That's our compliance activities ongoing right now. We have, as you notice, a lot of oversight internally and externally, which again is good. The fresh set of eyes are good. So, any questions, comments? Commissioner Power?
I think you kind of made reference to this. The first bullet and the sixth bullet are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Just over-location.
Yeah, nothing if not redundant.
Why don't we engage Foster Pepper for the
Because it is not a financial audit, it's more how the bonds were legally structured, and Foster Pepper is the expert on this. I asked Piper Jaffray, I said, if you guys help us on this, they go, no, you gotta go to bond counsel. And so we're having bond counsel.
Well, I do recall there was a mix-up in advice given from Foster Pepper, and that's why I was concerned why I was choosing them again.
There was early on, and it was actually before we issued the bonds, there was an issue that was mentioned, and I couldn't quote it for you, but it was not what we ended up doing.
I do recall what it was. It was,
you
it
were.
neglected to mention that the first year of occupancy here, we had to set aside the full year's worth of reserves. And that's how they based the first year on. And so we were short on the reserves, so we had to re-engage Foster
Yeah,
Pepper.
okay,
Yeah.
that one, yeah,
That was a really bad mistake.
that was, yeah, we all missed it, you're right.
And I'm not gonna say it's bad, you know, I'm just saying it was a mistake. And
It was a mistake.
made, and why would them, you know. They're expensive, they're other bond counsel.
Yeah, there is. I will tell you, when we were, you asked me, I'm answering the question. When we were looking at a tax-backed line of credit, I used another bond counsel, and I was churning for bills. And I originally thought, I want to get away from Foster Pepper. That convinced me that Foster Pepper actually is, I thought they were much better. So, that's,
Hard to understand, Foster Pepper's one of the highest bidder.
yeah, but I know, I was being churned, a lot of hours that I don't think I needed.
That's when you dispute the bill.
So, I did. Anyway, okay. So,
Questions?
yeah.
What is involved in the employee compliance online training? Are
It's
they
a
complying
review.
with the federal, state, local non-discrimination laws, or what is that all about?
All of the above. It goes into HIPAA compliance, it goes into discrimination, it goes into harassment, it goes into patient care training, and the training you take depends on the position you hold in the organization. So if you're a nurse, you do more patient care. I still do some patient care, but I don't do as much as the nurses do. So it's pretty all-encompassing, and it's a refresher course we put people through every year.
Is this something that commissioners ought to be familiar with or go through, or?
Good question. I'm not going to say no, yes or no. Instead, let me think about it.
What is a, no one else has a question at the moment?
Oh, why don't we ask if somebody else has a question?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Has anybody else got a question for Steve? Then the chair recognizes Commissioner
Okay.
Pollard.
What is a charge master?
It's a listing of what we charge for services.
Charge master sounds like a device.
It's actually a document.
It's a document?
It's a document, yes. It's a document. And it's standard, it's a standard way to talk about a listing of what you charge for services if you're in healthcare.
So this is a list of prices that we
Yeah,
charge
prices,
to
yeah.
provide certain services?
Mhm. And every hospital is required to publish their charge master on their website effective 1/1/2019.
Have we done this in the past?
No, the requirement just is coming into effect at the beginning of next year.
So this will be on our website?
It will be on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Steve on this page? No, I guess we're done.
All right?
Any other questions? Then we can move on. Next on the agenda is reviewing the draft letter of intent. Is that you? Dr. Whitcomb? You have the floor.
Thank you. So you all have copies of the draft LOI, and so it is truly still in draft form. What I wanted to do is to bring it before you before it found its way any farther to the finalization phase, so you had a chance to see it, speak into it, ask questions about it. Just a reminder, the letter of intent is not binding. It just starts to outline what it is that we want to include and to guide the process of the final agreement, should we head that direction. So I don't know if you had a chance to read through it, if you walked in with specific questions, or if you want to go through it section by section.
Well, I think some of the sections are pretty explanatory, like introductions, the background, the date. I have specific questions, but if anyone else wants to start at anywhere where it'd be important, they can go ahead and ask at this time. Where do you want to start?
I'd say if you have a question, just hit it.
Okay, all right.
Let's take turns.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things I thought about this, and I like it's actually pretty intense for our LOI. I didn't think it would be more than a page or two. So it's pretty specific. So that's good. And then there's some things that are left out, if you being specific. Who would be responsible for all the asset repairs and the asset leases? We would be?
So the asset, most of the assets all have,
Leases?
most of them have leases, and most of them have service contracts attached to them.
And we're responsible for them, right?
I think that's what's verified.
Yeah, I think because what if they go, well, the MRI machine broke down, we need a new one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a, what, 300,000? We want a good scope, we want a good one.
Okay, if you,
Yeah.
David, if you look at the bottom of page 1C, 1C will assume all necessary.
What page?
The page one,
Yep.
see, at the bottom.
OMC will assume all necessary third-party equipment and furnishing leases.
Right, but he's talking about the repair.
The repairs and,
Repair.
you know, that kind of thing.
It's not-
So-
What we don't reference is the maintenance agreement. So that'll have to be clarified.
Okay, so then I had some other questions. Portion of the tax revenue, I suspect that has to be, and a portion of the district's unrestricted cash balance to be determined, negotiated, I suspect.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you've been at the meeting. I have not. None of us have. Are they expecting to like break even right away, or they gotta be expecting to take a loss the first few years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This account is not intended to be touched in the course of the first 7 years. It's intended to be available to whichever party at the end of the 7 years might need it. So
Okay.
at the end of the term, or if any of the dissolution triggers are hit, then let's say the example is that something occurs in, so the district takes the hospital back.
Mhm.
You're gonna need a nest egg to
Right,
fall on, and
right,
that's
to
what
ramp up to
that-
start the, yeah.
That's
Okay.
what that is for.
Okay. And then, if I may continue with some of the other questions I had, I think there's a couple.
Why don't you go ahead, David?
All right. If anyone wants to butt in and ask a question, go right ahead, but I do have.
Follow your train of thought there.
Okay. So upon
Help us know where you are.
dissolution in page 2,
Mhm.
there are these triggers. Obviously, they don't feel like they can manage to do very well here without critical access. Here, enforcement, daycare. That's part of this, 1, 2, and 3. And so let's just say it goes away in 2 years, right? Do we have like a period of time that they have to continue operations so that we can find a new CEO and get changed around and transition back to where we were? We need to have that time period. 6 months to a year, 6 months minimum to get a new CEO. And I would say a 1 year net. 1 year, 1 year time would be much better, just because we're pretty much changing directions completely backwards or around or whatever, and it's gonna be a lot of transition. Steve's not gonna be here in 5 years or 10.
Less than
You know,
that.
so,
Less than that.
I'm just saying, you know, we got new players
Right.
to
Right.
get.
These are the kind of details I
Yeah.
wanted to tease out, that even if they
Yeah.
don't land in the LOIs,
Yeah.
that they land in the contract.
Right. So these are, I know that the LOI is just a framework.
Right.
And that's okay. But
But
at this
it'll,
point,
it prompts good thoughts.
I'm just, these are my thoughts.
Mhm.
And I'm going down in the process here, I just, you've been at the meetings, I don't know how long that they're thinking about doing this, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months?
What do you mean?
This, as soon as reasonably possible, the process, due diligence.
The due diligence phase?
Yeah.
They are measuring in months.
Okay.
Yeah, due diligence
So-
in months, so they're not, they don't want to state a month, but I can tell you it's in less than 6 months.
Okay, 3 or 6 or something. Okay, 3 or 5.
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
In fact, I'll say it another way, and that is, remember we had thought about, we had thought at one point in time that signatures would be, on this would be collected in November, that at this point in time we'd already be done. And then we just, the documents weren't quite ready for their board meeting in November, and so that puts us off until January for their board to sign. And the conversation has been, but just because that's the case, it shouldn't stop the forward motion at all for doing the due diligence. So it's moving forward. So it's not delaying the definitive agreement timeline, it's just actually pulling forward the due
Okay.
diligence phase.
I just want to kind of shore that up to find, you know, because we're all kind of have some expectation. We just need to know it.
No, they are absolutely in the less than 6 months.
As far as due diligence, I get that, non-binding costs, I get that, assignment revisions, these are all standard. I look at counterparts notice, standard, exclusive dealing period, standard, public announcements, standard for this type of engagement, I would think. Confidentiality, a must, and standard. I don't have any questions beyond those other things I pointed out at this time.
I only have one comment. The last page has one parking messages.
Yeah. This was crafted prior to November 14th.
He was supposed to remember in November.
Commissioner Pollard?
Yes. I guess I'm just a little uncomfortable about how this was provided to us at close of business on Monday.
And with apologies.
And you apologize, and I appreciate that. However, you know, we have other things in our lives, and so the amount of time that I've had to devote to this thing, from when I looked at it on Tuesday morning until today, because of prearranged appointments and other things that I was obliged to engage with, I really haven't had an adequate chance to study this. But a few things have come, just in reading it, a few things come to mind. But I think we need additional time to actually study this document.
I don't believe we were looking for any action
No,
tonight.
There's no action tonight.
Well, even to discuss it intelligently, I think we need some additional time. And it's hard to do that tonight when really, for some of us, it's almost like reading it the first time.
This will be the first of several opportunities.
Yeah, well, I'll make a couple of comments that just come, just in the reading of tonight. And that there are a lot of places here where things are to be defined, and we really need to get those defined. It seems to me. Like on page 2, item 7C, D, and so on. And also, I have a general question, which is, there was a LOI signed with Overlake Hospital in November of 2013. The board didn't learn about until about 4 to 5 months later. And the CEO had signed
Oh,
Yeah.
in
And you
private.
would recall that.
2015.
And
2013, December 3rd.
December like the 17th or something. Yeah. And at any rate, at that time, competent people, including Daryl Norris and Ryan Roberts, went through meetings with Overlake Hospital, extensive meetings, multiple meetings. And the bottom line, the conclusion was, this is not going to work. And so the global or overarching question I have is, how does this LOI differ from the one we rejected? And when we put this out to bid, Overlake did not even respond. That what they said is, if we were to respond, it would be similar to our response before in 2013. So now we're getting a replay of the 2013 submission or LOI. And the question I have is, how is this better? And why did we reject that one and now we're ready to accept a different LOI?
Can I
Maybe the
clarify
same thing.
some things? Because I think you hit the nail on the head on a couple things, but a couple things there. Not correct. First of all, back in 2013, former CEO did enter into an exclusive agreement with Overlake without the commissioner's knowledge. And there were some negotiations without, that's not the case here today. It's been pretty transparent. So it's a whole different ballgame today as far as transparency and working together on this. The whole negotiation process was kind of stonewalled by just not enough knowledge out there, not enough preparation, not enough time. None of the commissioners, some of them were new, didn't know where to begin and start in on an affiliation process the first month of whatever, the first few months. It was almost impossible to even think or fathom that anyone could do it. And Overlake pretty much had us under a bundle because they had a lot more knowledge than us, and they knew what they were doing. And it's a different, I think our commissioners in the last 3 years have a lot more knowledge. They've carefully reviewed all of the different avenues on how to proceed. And the reason, you go back prior to the affiliation process, before we put it out for request for bid or whatever, request for affiliation, I told everybody, I said, you should just find somebody, a point person, and go to a few of these hospitals directly without this whole process and spending money on consultants. But because I think most of the people on the board didn't have the idea of this whole process, we were able to go through a process and learn quite a bit about what we should expect and what not to expect. When we went into we didn't even get into an LOI with, what was that group down? Astria.
No, we did not.
For many reasons.
You're talking about Cade including consultants, Cade.
Yes, and we, in my opinion, we didn't need it, but the board acted together to say, we do need to go through this step by step so everyone is on board, so everyone understands this process and how do we get to the next step. I was all in favor of shortcutting because I kind of knew how to get to that next step. But that's kind of why Overlake was not going to participate in a process where there was 4,000 little points that we had to, that they had to say, yeah, we'll think about all these, consider all these points. We went into these workshops and we had 4,000 points that we wanted to bring out and make sure that our affiliate knew where we wanted, what we wanted, where we wanted our I's dotted and where we wanted our T's crossed. That's really not a way to really go when you're looking at an entity to help us out financially, particularly, and to do the things that we wanted to have done. And they didn't want to have their names smeared all over the place for 1 year without, you know, and competing with it. I see a lot of points why they didn't answer. But they did say one thing: if you ever don't end up with something, come back to us and let's talk about this. They did say that. So,
I heard that they said that you would be submitting something similar to what we did in 2015. That's what I was told.
I don't think it's similar, so.
That's what I was asking.
There are some similarities, but
I kind of summarized that based on my memory, but I have a pretty good memory about things back. And I don't think I see your point. Why are we doing this with somebody that really didn't want to do this with us to begin with? And that kind of, perhaps in our minds, screwed us back in 2014, you know, so. And I was kind of upset with that for several years because I felt like I went in a meeting with them and I couldn't even ask a question, but just a barrage of their legal counsel and their planners and the.
you talk about overlay?
Yeah, and I didn't get a word in.
This is
So, they know what they're doing, they know how to do it, and so we've taken the process to be very meticulous and to know what we want and what we want for our constituents. And I think they understand and they see where we're at. We've been more together in the last 3 years than we've ever been, and they know that, and they know that there would be a united front, most likely, to try to achieve the things that we need for our constituents. So they understand that, I think, now, and that's why, we have a very long LOI that gives us lots of, a lot of points in here that are directly related to what we want. So.
When I spoke with them earlier this week and I was sharing with them this was the topic of our work study tonight, they were very intentional to ask me to message that they are very enthusiastic about this. That even though they're being meticulous to lots of detail, but that the message they wanted heard was their enthusiasm.
Who are they?
Overlay.
I presume overlay, but are we talking about their board of commissioners? Their board of.
They don't have-
Well, yes, they don't have a board of commissioners, perhaps, but they have a board of trustees or whatever it is. Is that who's enthusiastic, or is it the staff, or?
It is who's enthusiastic. It's not who I'm speaking with. I speak with their CEO and their strategic, their VP for strategy. That's who I have my direct conversations with.
They're the ones that are enthusiastic.
And they represent their board of trustees, strategic and finance group. I can't remember how they term it, committee or what have you. That group also is more deeply involved than all the rest of the trustees and also express their enthusiasm through the CEO.
I would think that if they, just one tidbit about that, I would think if they were hiding or trying to fake their enthusiasm or doing something without their trustees' approval, it would be met with perhaps some problems with their employment.
Yeah, I tried to read a little something generally from the literature, and one of these things they say is that failures of mergers and acquisitions are all often attributable to a difference in culture. And so one of the things that I remember with Astrid, Tom Parker even brought in the CEO and the chief financial officer, and I think one or two other people to meet with us so we could interact with them and get a feeling for where they're coming from. And it would seem to me that it would be appropriate for us to meet with representatives or with their board of trustees to interact with them and see where they're coming from on something. I realize certain persons from the board have met with them, but I think the board itself, just like we did with Astrid,
Who's met with them?
Who's met with them? Kim has met with him.
Oh, no, our board is going to do it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Kim and I.
Okay, the staff.
Yeah, Kim and Steve have met with him, and I'm saying certain people. And then I'm sure Daryl remembers that she met with them, and she at least got to know
We
them.
did not meet with the board of trustees prior, that we met with their financial officers, we met with some other people and their attorney, but we did not meet with anybody.
Okay, all right, but I guess I haven't met with any of them, and so I have a very distant relationship with them. I'd like to have a closer and more knowledgeable relationship with the people that we're supposed to be sharing culture with.
Yes.
So Mike Marsh, the CEO, is absolutely willing to come and talk. In fact, he offered to come tonight, and I asked him not to do that, because I thought tonight needed to be an opportunity really for this group to speak really freely. But he is absolutely willing, interested, and waiting for his opportunity to come and speak with you all and get to know you. But I think we need to find what's that right forum for that to happen. But they share that same sentiment, Mr. Pollard, and they feel like they need to get to know as this goes on. It's part of the due diligence phase.
Yeah, and one of the things you suggested in terms of mergers and acquisitions is, you don't wait until it happens. You start with small steps of providing services together or something like that. And that's what happened, for example, in Yakima with Yakima Memorial Hospital and so forth, with Virginia Mason. So why don't we look for opportunities to begin now to do some of these things?
I thought you were actually heading down the path of speaking to all the ways that we are already working with Overlay.
I know.
In our
I'd like to know more about that, and are there ways where we could do more of that, and particularly in terms of delivery of service to patients?
I think one difference between Overlake and Astria is one, Astria is far away and they didn't know us. Overlake, we have patients that have already been to Overlake. Many of the people in the valley, that's their lead where they go, especially in this valley because Swedish didn't used to be there. So Overlake's where they've established their health care, those clinics and things. So I think too, they're designed different than us with trustees. It's not the same kind of format. Trustees oftentimes do different kinds of things than what we do. They don't look at all the budgets.
No.
They don't look. In fact, they're required lots of times to donate and make sure that the hospital has money and is running well. So it's a much different kind of layout than what we're used to.
I just want to make it clear that none of the board members here have had any conversations with Overlake about this yet.
No, not, I did before, when Dr. Whitcock did, but I haven't since, while this process has been going on.
I feel that Daryl and of course Ryan Roberts not on board anymore, but they at least interacted with Overlake top staff, if
Commissioner
not
Pollard,
the commissioners.
you can ask Dr. Whitcock. I didn't hardly know what I was doing. My mouth was shut most of the time, because I
I
was,
find that
You
hard
were
to
new,
believe.
weren't you?
well, I can see why you might find that hard to believe.
That should take my back up.
But once again, since I haven't had a chance to really get down into the detail, globally, I heard that we were not going to have an exclusive LOI, but this looks like to me, at this item E on page 3, that this is going to be an exclusive LOI. And that's not what I was told we were going to do.
Nobody's going to be, we can't go out and start
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
negotiating with somebody.
Yes.
That's really bad faith.
What's that?
We can't go start looking to find another suitor. That would be totally bad faith and it would ruin
Not bad faith, as long as everybody
Well,
knows what everybody is doing.
Yeah,
But Tom Parker said it would not be an exclusive LOI.
I think that's all he's been talking about.
No, if you remember Howard Thomas,
Yes.
you should probably talk to him maybe. And
I
ask
haven't
about
had any contact with him in years.
I haven't either, but maybe he has some foresight, would probably help out and give you some information about how this thing goes. I don't have high level of knowledge. I just know that if you're going to work for 3 to 5 months, period of time, when we start negotiating with another entity in this 3 to 5 month period of time, that's pretty, you might as well.
Yes, I agree.
Well, that sounds logical, but just saying that we were
It's just
told
more-
that this was not
it's
going to be an exclusive.
Bad
LOI.
business, bad faith.
I'm sorry that it came across that way. That's never been part of the plan to have it be anything other than exclusive during the LOI term.
Yeah, that wasn't, the intent was exclusivity during the LOI term, beforehand not.
Yeah.
And we didn't have much
Exclusivity
takers
would be-
before either. This is
Well,
what the
in
ordinance
the
said before.
literature, it says that generally speaking, a more financially sound organization that is merging with the less sound, there will be some kind of transfer of capital or assets or something from the stronger organization to the weaker. And along the way, I got the impression that we were going to ask for an infusion of capital or something other than just being a backup if we can't pay our bills. If all they're doing is standing there as a backup to help us pay our bills if we ever get into trouble, then really they're functioning like an insurance company. But what I would like to know is, what are we going to get from them in terms of capital investment?
Well, that's why we bring Mike Marsh in here, we start asking these questions.
So when they come in and take over operations, they will use the first year to do a market assessment and identify what more is needed in this area, in this community, and then that will drive where they invest the capital. So the operations will be under their control,
Mhm.
and they will be, like I said, basing it on what the needs are. And so that would be where the capital infusion occurs.
I wouldn't think we should have them in place for a year to figure that out. Under the Affordable Care Act, we have the obligation to do a community health needs assessment every 2 years. The last one we did, we piggybacked on overlay rather than do our own, which was 2 years before that. And it seemed like you could find this out by doing a timely community health needs assessment now.
Which will be in 2019, that absolutely will happen.
Yeah, they'll have to wait one.
Yeah, we have to start.
Right away, that'll be one of the first things that they need to do.
Yeah, and who's going to be responsible for that? We or they?
They.
Okay, because I think under the law, we are responsible. Maybe by contract, we can make them responsible.
They will be the operators.
Yeah.
So
They will be the operators.
Yeah, we want them to be the operators
Yes.
by that time, so, yeah.
Well,
We
I
want-
just think that the community's going to want to know, how are you better off financially as a result of this affiliation?
That's where Steve comes up.
So we have a whole lot of analysis done.
Yeah, there's a lot to do
And
here.
that's the whole reason why the lead comment on here is that Overland comes in and brings in their branding. They, not only are they operations, but also their branding. So that drives your volumes, just by nature of brand. And then through their assessments, they're able to identify, and what else do we need? What else is it that the community needs? Because whatever we need is going to be a volume-based result as well. But yeah, so all those things that you're thinking, Mr. Pollard, is exactly what's at play. You're actually thinking exactly what the ROI.
Well, you mentioned, gee, this is just the first pass of this, and there'll be more opportunities. So is there a way we could kind of schedule the future opportunities to get into deeper discussion about this after we've had a chance to review it and study it?
We have rescheduled the December work study session. It was originally so close to the holiday, and we entertained the idea of canceling it, but decided instead to keep it because it represents a placeholder for us to come back and do a deeper dive into this if we've got future renditions.
What is the date of that placeholder? Pardon?
The 19th.
19, yes, the 19th.
It was like the Monday or something?
That should be a Wednesday.
See?
Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Still near something.
Yep.
Didn't they have that in the calendar, so I'll put that in. This is a workshop, right?
Now, we're constrained from discussing this with anybody outside the board if Kim Cupp's cover letter is correct. Are we standing on solid ground there that we can't discuss this with anybody?
Yes, that's correct. And you will see at the very end of this LOI, it reiterates once again that this is covered under the non-disclosure agreement. And so, yeah, and that's the reason why we didn't put it out for the
This is public
tonight.
now, isn't it?
It is not.
It is not.
It is not.
Well, when you say non-disclosure agreements, you know, that's gotten a bad name at the federal level recently. NDAs.
Okay.
So the question is, under state law, and the Public Records Act and the Open Public Meetings Act, how does that comply with those things in terms of
It is still,
being able to or not able to discuss this with somebody outside the board?
it's considered work product. And so until the final agreement is signed, it's not for release, including under the public records release. When it is signed in its final state, at that moment it is available.
Well, the trouble is, once it's signed, there's no reason to have input from anybody else. See, that's the problem. It would
Well, who else
would
do you-
essentially be rubber stamped.
Who do you want the?
Yeah, who do you want to?
I don't have anybody specific in mind, but I'd like to be able to discuss it with maybe some of the bidders on our original consultant contract. Dan Marino, for example, from his consulting firm, or I don't know. I don't have anybody particular in mind. It's just, I'm wondering whether this is too restrictive under the Public Records Act and the Open Public Meetings Act.
It's not for
Why don't we
us.
have legal counsel?
Yeah.
I don't trust
Well,
legal
I
counsel.
think we should check with
As soon as Skip
Municipal
comes back.
Research and
Yeah,
Services.
yeah, Skip.
But I will tell you that Overlake was very intentional about having that be part of this,
Mhm.
because from their perspective, it is important that it be,
Yeah.
that we honor the non-disclosure agreement as written.
But where's the non-disclosure agreement?
It's on a file, we signed it.
Is it part of this agreement?
It's not, it's already been signed, it was signed
And it was signed in what context?
for entering into these conversations.
Okay, could I get a copy of the non-disclosure agreement, please?
We all signed
Yeah.
it 2 months ago.
All right, that's fine. I'd like to recall it, getting a copy of it, please. Okay.
Yeah, it
Well,
would be a
those are
great
just some-
reminder of, yeah.
Comments off the top of my head and a quick look at the document, but I feel that, well, for example, we have a member of the public who says that, oh, this is going to be great because we're going to get the Verdant program here. Well, the Verdant program up at Edmonds, as I recall, that was involved with Swedish Hospital, and they poured millions of dollars into that program. And I would like to know, are we talking realistically here about the Verdant program? How do they see it? What's it going to cost? Are they prepared to make the investment? See, we can't just say these
Yes.
attractive words.
So some of the things that as this group over the next several months, 3, 4, 5 months from now, we'll need to start thinking about, and what does the district's business transition into when it's no longer in the business of owning and operating a hospital and clinics? And it's at that point in time that we get to have the conversations about, is the Burton model what this group wants to move forward with? Is there a different model? Is there something unique and innovative they want to explore? So there's not a commitment to that model at this point in time. But it would not be, Overlake would have no impact on it, other than being funded.
I think we ought to start that talk now, rather than wait 3 or 4 months and then say, now that we've decided
Should be
to
part of
document.
that
Really
workshop.
valuable for your, sure.
That'd be
Yeah,
part of the
but-
workshop.
And you're really valuable
Yeah,
for
we should
your
have that
state, your
workshop.
head, be thinking about and the what next.
I just want to make a comment. I'm very excited that an entity like Overlake will have the resources and the knowledge to pinpoint the needs of the community. And that is what I feel would be a benefit to all of our constituents.
And I think some of us have lived on this side and we've watched how Overlake has changed. It was going to be public health hospital and chose not to. So watching it over the years, putting a mother-child center, doing all the things that they've done, and having worked there, they're stepping out and doing new and different things, and making healthcare available to their community, things that you necessarily didn't get so easily. So they've grown as far as just even their capabilities since I lived in Harvard, a huge amount.
If you go online and you look for Overlake and where its facilities are, it has about 8 or 10 clinics
It
scattered
does.
around the area. These clinics are feeders for their hospital.
Yes.
And what I don't want to see is that essentially that we become a feeder for Overlake. I think we want to have our own community hospital and not just be a feeder for Overlake. I think that's a hazard.
The only thing though is we also have an old community, and there's certain services that an older population needs that we can't provide or don't provide. And yet those would be close at hand for our community. And I think, I mean,
I think even better with the aspect of having a continuum of care.
that's right.
Which is exactly
Yes,
what
yes,
we've been trying to do for a long time.
yes.
And I think we
you're
make
right.
a good effort, but we don't have, we just don't have.
No, no. No,
Well,
I think that's well spoken.
Dario, you made a very good point about how Overlake had the opportunity to become public hospital district number 2, and they turned it down. And now they are indeed a nonprofit hospital district, but they are a for-profit-driven nonprofit, is the way they characterize themselves, a profit-driven nonprofit. And there's a different culture there, and there's a different level of transparency that can be demanded. And
You can get their financials offline. I have before. They are available. because-
Their audited financials are on their website.
Yeah.
I've looked at them.
Yeah, so if you want to know their financials, they're not easy to get, and they're not difficult to get a hold of.
They are,
Okay, I just want to say one thing, if I can. We are commissioners for a district. I happen to not live in this community as does some other folks. And we need to look at how Overlake will impact the total district care.
I think that's, you're right.
Would be good for our December conversation.
But you want to
Skip to comment on the non-disclosure agreement.
Yes, I think that would, yeah. Okay.
There's, just, and maybe I'll let Mr. Mueller even ask a question about the letter of intent and its coverage under the non-disclosure agreement in reference to the being public, or the public records request. He just wanted confirmation that the non-disclosure agreement does that.
Apparently it was signed by all of us who are by the commissioners with respect to the non-disclosure aspect of this process.
You don't have a copy of that? Commissioner Holmes, is that what you mean?
No, I had a copy, and I may have a copy somewhere, but I'd like to have a copy now. So if you could just please provide that to me online.
I can do that, yes. We can provide that to you. So if I understand the question correctly, the letter of intent would be signed and adopted by any folks we get there right now, it's still a draft. But the non-disclosure agreement identifies during this period of draft time that we're not sharing. But I will get you a copy of that.
Yeah, what I was expressing is the fear that we're not able to See, the bottom line is, that with all of this effort that we're putting into this, in the final analysis, if the people of the valley don't buy it, we're out of luck, folks. If they are not behind this, I mean, after all, this district belongs to the people, not to the overlay, and for that matter, not to our bonds, people that bought our bonds, and so forth.
I totally agree with you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I totally agree with you. If people don't buy it, we're out. Yeah.
We're out.
I do. Have you been able to talk to anybody about potentially overlay coming in or any of your constituents or anything like that?
To try to respond, I really haven't gone out and looked for input, but I have been told of some people that have been very unsatisfied with the healthcare services that they've gotten from overlay. And so it just came to me, not that I was out researching it, but I think there are a lot of people in this community that don't like overlay. We like to think they do, and this was my position when we started. But I don't know how to measure how people are going to react to this major change when it's no longer our personal community hospital, really. It's run by overlay, this giant thing. And take into account the fact that overlay has never had an acquisition or merger with any other hospital, in contrast to Virginia Mason, for example. And so they don't have success to show from previous mergers or acquisitions. These are the factors that concern me. So does that respond to?
Yeah, which I think that each commissioner should take it upon themselves or herself and actually go out and talk to some of the folks about the brand.
Well, how do you do that with a non-disclosure agreement?
We just say, well, how would you feel like overlay coming in and taking over the hospital operation? We don't have to disclose what the agreement might be, and that's safe.
Wouldn't you have them disclose?
I asked them
about
about their care, but would you want to go to overlay for the overlay? Where do you go if you wouldn't come to our hospital? Where would you choose?
Well, the logical question is, what's up? And now, can we discuss the fact that we're in this process with overlay, or is that covered by the non-disclosure agreement?
You could discuss that you're in the process.
The process, yeah.
Well, I think that's a
Non-disclosure
constructive
agreement has
suggestion.
changed to proprietary.
That we talk to people in the
Yeah, I
community.
think we all should.
But I don't know how to measure it. I mean, we could only maybe talk with a half a dozen people each.
I'll probably talk to 24 on Saturday at the Chief Canaan Bazaar. And then downtown in Fall City, there's a tree lighting ceremony. I'll probably talk to another dozen.
Okay, remember, we have 50,000 people who use that. It could be
Well,
48,
people will tell
49.
two people, and they'll tell two people,
Well,
maybe I'll have 150 people.
49,000
Maybe
people.
1,000 by then.
And we want to know, when they need health care, will they come to this new
Okay,
configuration?
the chair thinks that we have talked enough about this draft letter and would like us to move on to other. Does anybody have an other that we haven't discussed?
Just other than on the 13th, I'll be phoning in
Okay.
at the meeting. So,
Did you get that back?
and I don't know if I'm an hour early or late.
Where are you?
Arizona, Tucson.
Oh, they changed?
Yes.
I'm an hour late.
They don't change,
They
but
change.
now I don't know which.
I don't know
I think I'm an hour late.
Tell us when you get there.
Check in.
Serial time of
I
it.
think I'll be an hour late. Hopefully not.
Do you have anything you want to share with us, counsel, legal counsel, after coming all this way?
And I apologize, I left at 4:15 and there was just several wrecks and Highway 18 shut down.
That's probably where I'm at.
I did want to get here for your public hearing at 7 o'clock, your special meeting.
Okay.
To address
And
that.
it is 7:07, so why don't we go ahead and close this meeting, and then we can go in, pardon? Public comment, and then we'll go into our, do we have any public comment?
Okay, only to say that a little disappointed about some of the discussion that was here. It's almost as if this board needs to have a watchdog, or that, there's some suspicion there or something like that. I'm not making it a secret that I want the verdant model, but I trust this board to go ahead and research it. And I think that it has enough merit on its own that it'll take a life of its own. And if it's the right thing, it will be incorporated. So I'm hoping that, in future discussions, things can be a little bit more positive and a little less grounded in what I believe to be unfounded suspicions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I don't think there's any other. So now we will be moving into, we are going to adjourn this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Then we will, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.